choked and hit and slapped and beaten up.
I think women are growing up in a culture that is more concerned about them seeking out equality as opposed to embracing differences. So women are pushed to, for lack of a better way of saying it, to fight like a man as opposed to embracing their differences. There's biological differences, there's physical differences, and there's differences amongst women. I mean, some women are closer physically to how men are built, and some women are more feminine. And but there's this push for equality that I think is detrimental to women actually finding something that works for them.
You have to fight like a man in order to be an effective fighter, and that's what you're always taught to fight like a man.
I think one of the big issues with training ladies, females, to be able to defend themselves, in a lot of places, a lot of systems, styles, methodologies, they try to teach a woman how to be a fighter. That should not be the goal. There are fighting elements that go into your ability to be able to, deter an attack or buy yourself some time. Stand and exchange punches with a 250-pound gorilla. For most ladies, it's not the most efficient and it's not the way that truly makes sense. Fighting has traditionally been attributed as an activity that men are generally involved with. When we teach women, we try to be like me, fight like me. You see what I do, repeat this. And what it becomes really is we're trying to create a baby gorilla, a 110-pound, 130-pound gorilla, who's somehow going to use the same approach as a 250-pound gorilla, yet we somehow going to expect that this is going to come out as a positive outcome. And it's just not realistic. We're trying, there's too much aesthetics, there's too much, again, trying to make women fit into this picture of what fighting should look like. When two men engage in violence against each other, you're looking at somewhat fair exchange. Yeah, one might be bigger, faster, younger, stronger, or whatever other advantages may have, but generally speaking, it's the same species fighting. When you're talking about male attacker versus a female would-be victim, there are some undeniable differences. Again, it's not less, it's not more, it's difference that we cannot ignore. That has to be your starting point with clear understanding that, you're 105 or 110 pounds. Your attacker most likely will be 160 plus. Yes, we men have bigger size, more muscle mass, more muscle weight. Some of us would like to think we have, a more developed, more advanced fighting mindset or fighting spirit.
It's not about proving that I'm as great as a man or I'm as strong as a man, or I don't care about any of that. I care about my life and the life of my children and getting home safe. If that means that I have to learn to fight differently than a man would fight, so be it. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
self-defense is more than the collection of techniques and tricks and muscles and speed. It's a sum of a lot of things.
Looking at it from an evolutionary perspective, men, they almost view violence as, they look at it more competitively than women do. They're a lot more accepting to it. Men are used to competing with each other physically to get what they want. Women more so verbally. An attack on a woman, unless it just has to do with theft, if someone's just trying to steal your purse or steal something from you. I mean, that could be this, it doesn't matter what your gender is, but the nature of an attack on a woman will most likely be sexual in nature. And for women, it's a completely different type of fear as opposed to just fearing that someone wants to beat the crap out of you. You know, women have that added dimension.
The way that other methodologies use that fear to kind of patronize women and get their money it's sad. There is a hypersensitivity and they're preying on that, and they're not a lot of people are teaching you the correct and practical ways of handling such a situation. Speaking about the lip service, I think a lot of methodologies out there kind of prey on that fear of sexual assault, where mace, anti-rape underwear, kick 'em you know where.
Kick 'em in the balls.
I think that when we talk about fear-mongering, there is an element of fear that a woman has that a man might not completely understand. With learning to fight, you have a greater chance of facing that fear and actually surviving.
Social fights versus true criminal assaults. It's so different. Folks, look at the surveillance videos of true criminal assaults, regardless of the gender, whether it's on men, women, home invasions, or whatnot, and two guys fighting outside the bar. What differences do you see? Men, a lot of training, martial arts, combatives, whatever you want to call it, self-defense, is a competitive environment in the training context. There's a lot of pride involved.
Self-preservation than just winning a fight. And I think that might be a difference between a male fighter and a woman fighter, is that men tend to want to win. And me coming from my perspective, being a mother, I'm definitely, my main goal is self-preservation and the preservation of the life of my children.
It's been more traditional for men to handle violent situations. It's almost more of an expectation to them. For women, it's kind of, it can be more of a surprise to them when they do.
And women, they do have things that they can put into a game of violence that I think the biggest, really, advantage is that it's unexpected. Most attackers, if not all, will not expect certain things to happen. There's a great line in the movie Devil's Advocate where Al Pacino's character says, "They'll never see you coming." Ladies, I want you to think about that term. Get yourself to where they will never see you coming. As a male attacker, individuals like that, what they do expect, they expect a emotional fear-based response. Again, screaming, scratching, pushing back, or begging for mercy. That's generally the stigma of what a majority of female would-be victims would do when they're under assault. What they don't expect is a female using common sense, using training, and taking advantage of where she can be the most effective. And generally speaking, punching at the full extension out there, man in the nose, or as you were joking about, kicking him in where, kicking him in the testicles. It's funny how many methodology systems, styles, whatever you want to call it, there's this holy grail. Kick him in the balls.
I'm standing in the kitchen cooking, and I actually have that thought in the back of my head. What if somebody broke into my house, my back is turned, I'm washing dishes, cooking something, and what is next to me? What can I use? Am I in heels? These things that you think are disadvantages of being a woman actually can be advantages. So you're in heels, use them. So you're in a dress, it doesn't matter. I would rather be alive than be societally appropriate at that moment.
Men attack women with goal of what? If it's not a strictly robbery. Okay? Submission. Where it's gonna go from there, we don't know. It can go into many directions, none of them are good. But it's control and submission. In order to do that, men will try to do what? They will try to get in close. And it's interesting because if you're gonna let him in close, they have you. Let's think about this. You're gonna get hurt even more when you try to hold him back, push him back, scratch his face. Then you're gonna face the true man fighting approach, where you're gonna get big elbow in your nose, you're gonna get knocked out, you're gonna get kicked in the chest, thrown on the ground. When a lady is being assaulted, again, sexual context or none, if you're gonna square off with your attacker, what you're gonna bring in is the pride. Do not bring out that pride component in your attacker. Okay? You should go active and be proactive at that point, not fighting backwards, not backpedaling, but fighting forward, bringing the pain, not the fight, the pain and the damage to your attacker. Only and when you are in the position of advantage. Okay? When you are at a distance, when your attacker is within arm's reach, he grabs you by the throat, by the hair, by your arm, or whatnot, this is not when you are at advantage. Okay? Step towards him. And when you are within 6 inches of his body, that's when you have advantage. That's when it's time to go. Not when he's holding you, not when he's trying to wrap you, not when he's trying to push you. You push him back, you punch him in the face, you kick him in the balls. Now you're a 120-pound gorilla about to get into fist fight with 220-pound gorilla. Where do you think that's going to go? That's not being addressed. The product is being sold that does not provide what it advertises to provide.
Well, it's sold as a one-size-fits-all type of product.
In training, what is truly missing is the recognition that while we are different, women are not less. It's different doesn't mean less, doesn't mean more. And I think training should be focusing on giving an overall understanding of the process of violence, what is involved in violence, without much of a sugarcoating and, but at the same time, on the other side of the spectrum, without fear-mongering. We have to find balance of reality. Sometimes it's a purse snatch. Sometimes it's, attempted sexual assault. Sometimes it's a carjacking. Whatever the case might be, if training was to be realistic and effective for women to be able to defend themselves, we should kind of grow the fighter from where we start. And we start with a lady. Okay, whether she doesn't have a fighting experience or she does have some training experience. You can, through correct training methodology, training hard, training smart, training with recognition of facts that you have on hand, with the realities that you have present, you can, without any problems, in my experience, in my opinion, help female to become just as fierce fighter, just as efficient fighter. It's not going to look the same. She's not going to fight like The guy fights.
How to use what you already have and build on that, where it might not be, you're a cage fighter, but if you were in a real life attack, then at the end of the day, you can go home safely. And to me, that's what matters most.
Having a will to fight does not equate to having a skill to fight. I know all of you ladies who are mothers, you are lionesses when it comes to protecting your children. Nature designed it that way. If I'm an assailant, I don't care about your will to fight. The only thing that's going to deter me is going to be your skill to fight. Skills do not come by you having a will to fight. You need to have a will to train and acquire those skills. When women say, if anyone even tries to do something to my children, so they imply that there is such a possibility. But then yet, like I was saying, your friends, they would go like, I don't want to go there in a rough tub. This will never happen. There are bad hombres out there. There are predators. Being of that gender, I guess I could be ashamed, but it is what it is. Males. Okay? There's a lot of men who don't deserve that title of a man. Nevertheless, that doesn't make him any less dangerous. You can be a roaring lioness, but if you don't have claws and teeth and know how to use them, you'll roar as you watch your cubs die. Think about it.
And it's not just being a mother, although that is the main reason I got into training. But as we see the political climate as it is now, you could be without your children, be wearing a certain political party's shirt and be attacked. We all know the news stories. It's not just a novel by George Orwell anymore. It's not just fiction. It's not just something that could never happen. It is turning into a dangerous world. And if you stand up for your beliefs, and if you have a conviction, you could be killed for it. And that is the world that we're living in now. So whether you have children or not, I think it's naive not to take the necessary precautions and train to start learning the skills that you need to learn to preserve your life.
I've been seeing a growing cognitive dissonance with what violence actually is. We have people claiming that simply a difference in opinion, and I'm talking specifically with groups in regards to mainstream feminism, simply having a difference in opinion is considered violent. You could be labeled a Nazi if you differ in opinion, and that excuses them from using actual violence, which is physical violence, but they are changing the definition of violence to simply be verbal, which is what women are used to. I'm not surprised because with the growing feminist movement, women engage more verbally than they do physically. And if women are accepting that as violence, they're not accepting what violence actually is, which is the physicality of it. So I think it's, with the political climate, it's really hard to actually understand what violence really is and the difference between what self-defense actually is and what initiating violence is.
Society in general, but also within the training circles. When a female, a girl, a woman comes to train, it's almost like this big event. Like, wow, the girl came, to learn to shoot or to learn to fight, to defend herself. It shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way. It should be normal. It should be like, cool, girl came to train. Awesome. What's so different about it? It's actually, I think it's demeaning to look at it that way, to go like, this girl is so cool. No, I mean, she's cool, I'll give you that, but it should not be projected and looked upon and, as some kind of a, you special, you exceptional. The others are,
It's almost saying that, women are inherently, they inherently don't belong there. And if you overcome it, you're an exception. There's something abnormal about you, and that's...
Yeah, like you're a black sheep.
Another thing I find detrimental to people treating women as an exception if they go into training is, and I felt this too if I'm the only woman in a particular class, is I feel like there's all this pressure to, like, all of a sudden, because there's only one woman there, I'm expected to represent my entire gender. So there's this pressure to perform as opposed to learn. So I feel like, okay, now I have to prove that women can do this. I have to prove that women are capable of doing this.
Ladies, for you should not feel that way. Guys, don't make ladies feel that way. We boys, we like to play the way we play, and our little pride and ego games, our little dominance games. And many of us often feel, kind of this, I don't even know how to say it, but, we need to be patronizing. We need to project this like, oh, don't worry, I'll help you. Let's stop. Stop doing this. Actually help. Actually do what matters, drop the political correctness, drop the fear of, being misunderstood. Be yourself in a way, in a human way, in the way that matters, If you care, show that you care. If you don't care, you shouldn't be there.
It has to be a switch. I think you were talking one time about reading a children's book, and you said you have to be able to be reading a book to your children, and then it's a switch if something happened, and you have to
read a children's book.
You have to turn it on and turn it off.
Next, you pull the trigger 10 times, because it was needed
right.
to protect those children, and then you should go back to be able to read children's book, and that's ability to be a normal person, and it's asexual. It's not gender specific. Men and women should be able to be that. We're not projecting. We're not trying to tell you, ladies, that we're going to try to make you into these cold-blooded, trained killers. No, we're going to... The goal is stay a person that you are. Take more responsibility in your abilities, improving your abilities to protect yourself and your loved ones, to protect your way of life, whatever you want to call it, and be able, in your normal activities, your daily activities, in your errands, your whatever, be a lady, be all that. But when it's time to protect, to defend, don't just roar like a lion, just be one. Do the damage that's needed to achieve what needs to be achieved, which is you staying normal for the rest of your life, raising your children, doing your things, loving, cooking, whatever it is that you do, and I think training has to provide that. We need to stay normal humans. We need to stay normal with ability to do some very, very abnormal things. Abnormal in a sense of how society looks at it. My view on that is somewhat different, somewhat extreme maybe to some. Violence is normal. It's not good, it's normal.
In training, you need to adopt more of an individualistic mindset as opposed to a collectivist mindset. Feminism teaches you that society is responsible for your well-being. And it doesn't matter if it's against the law to rape, people will rape. If you ask them how you prevent rape, their first response will be education, which of course you want to educate, as Lacey says, she's going to educate her boys that rape is wrong. But they use that as if it's a guarantee that every single individual can be controlled by some collectivist effort to tell people that rape is wrong. individuals have the capability to reject whatever they're being fed. So it doesn't matter if there's this huge educational effort to teach men not to physically harm or sexually assault women. Along with the collectivist mindset, that's one thing too, is that all women are different, and so it is more about the individual rather than the gender. There are some biological differences with men and women, but even women differ on the individual level. So it should be more of an individualistic mindset. It's not sexist to tell a woman that what she's doing isn't going to be what she's doing, the same thing she's doing isn't going to be as effective for her as it would be for a man. It's embracing her individual differences, as opposed to making her a sacrificial animal to the collective ideal. I've heard a lot of mainstream feminists claim that promoting self-defense is an act of victim blaming, meaning that you're condoning that people rape or sexually assault people in general. And the reality is, when you have this collective mindset, you can't fathom that an individual will reject information or education. You can't control that every individual will treat you with respect. A lot of women look at it as black and white. Either you embrace, educational measures, or you become violent yourself, which is somehow condoning assault in general if you yourself are violent. And no, there is a difference.
And that is not what training is. Training is not being a violent person. Training is not being an immoral person. Training is, at its basic level, self-preservation.
What training is taking responsibility for your own well-being. A very selfish act, I know. Take responsibility for your own well-being. Let's think about this for a minute. Your well-being, parts of it is you making a certain amount of money to be able to provide for your family, your loved ones, feed yourself, clothe yourself, and have a shelter, right? There's nothing selfish about it, correct? Folks, training and preparation for violence is nothing more than being an objectivist, looking at the reality of the world out there and understanding this. Violence always was, it is, and always will be part of our life.
One thing that I've noticed, especially personally, going into self-defense, is I've had a hard time embracing the selfishness aspect. And what I mean by that is when, for example, if I'm training with a male partner, which I would highly encourage women to do, because the reality is your attacker is going to be male. I have a hard time not feeling bad that my male training partner is not getting the same benefit as I am, that they're not getting any benefit because I'm not as strong. But in training especially, selfishness is a virtue in that you're embracing that you value your own life. And that's not to say you don't value other people's lives. In order to value life, you have to value your own life.
Here's the thing. Firearm, knife, any other weapon, the nice pink canister of the spray, whatever you may have.
Brutus the Bulldog.
Brutus the Bulldog. It's the tool. It's the tool that you have to access, you have to have with you, and hope it works. You, your body, your fingers, your knees, your elbows, your teeth is what you have with you at all times. Train that. Train that, learn how to use it. All the other things, they can enhance your chances of prevailing and surviving, but they're not in any way, shape, or form guaranteed. Train. Train. Get involved with training. Hopefully you can find a group where other students, other practitioners involved care enough. Okay? You You go to one place, you don't find it, leave. Go to the next place. Don't get involved in the dugout. Don't get involved in following this or that. Okay? Be very, very selfish. This is for you to protect your sanity, your body, your life.